Welcome to Brainish English Stories.
Santa Claus has been very kind to us all, said Jean Lawrence. She took the pins out of her thick, fair hair, and it fell over her shoulders. I think so too, said Nellie Preston, though her mouth was full of chocolates. My family at home sent me the perfect gifts. It's like they knew exactly what I wanted. It was Christmas Eve, and the sky was getting dark. The girls were all in Jean's room at number 16 Chestnut Terrace. Number 16 was a boarding house, and boarding houses were not usually happy places for Christmas. But Jean's room was nice, and all the girls had brought their Christmas presents to show each other. That year, Christmas was on a Sunday, and the mail on Saturday evening at Chestnut Terrace had been very exciting. Jean turned on her pink lamp, and its soft light shone on the girls' happy faces as they talked about their gifts. On the table was a big white box full of roses. Someone had spent extra money to send them. Jean's brother in Montreal had sent the roses, and all the girls were enjoying them together. There were usually a lot of girls at number 16 Chestnut Terrace. But now only 5 were left. All the other girls had gone home for Christmas. These 5 could not go home, so they tried to enjoy themselves as much as they could. Belle and Olive Reynolds were sitting on the bed. Jean could never stop them from sitting there. They were high school girls, and they were always laughing. They couldn't go home for Christmas because their younger brother had the measles, but they didn't let that ruin their fun. Beth Hamilton was looking at the roses, and Nellie Preston was eating candy. Both of them were art students, and their homes were too far away to visit. Jean Lawrence was an orphan and had no home. She worked for a big city newspaper. The other girls admired her because she was smart, but Jean was friendly and fun. Her room was the favorite place for the girls to gather. Everyone liked Jean because she was kind and generous. The postman looked so funny when he came this evening, said Olive. He was carrying so many parcels that they were sticking out everywhere. We all got something, said Jean happily. Even the cook got 6 parcels. I counted them. Miss Allen didn't get anything, not even a letter, said Beth quickly. Beth always noticed things that other people didn't. Oh, I forgot about Miss Allen. No, I don't think she got anything, said Jean slowly, as she tied up her pretty hair again. How sad it must feel to be all alone like that on Christmas Eve. I'm so glad I have friends. I saw Miss Allen watching us as we opened our parcels and letters, said Beth. I looked up once, and her face looked so sad. Girls. It made me feel bad for a little while. Doesn't Miss Allen have any friends? Asked Beth. No, I don't think she has, said Jean. She has lived here for 14 years, Mrs. Pickrell says. Can you imagine that, girls? 14 years at Chestnut Terrace. No wonder she is so thin, unhappy, and grumpy. Nobody ever comes to visit her, and she never goes anywhere, said Beth. Oh dear. She must feel very lonely now, when everyone else is getting presents from their friends. I can't forget her face tonight. It stays in my mind. Girls, how would you feel if you had no family and nobody cared about you at Christmas? Ow, said Olive, shivering just at the thought. For a moment, nobody said anything. To be honest, none of them liked Miss Allen. They knew Miss Allen didn't like them either. She thought they were silly and noisy. She often complained when they made too much noise. Jean sometimes called Miss Allen the skeleton at the feast. Miss Allen was pale, quiet, and always looked unhappy. She made the dinner table at number 16 feel less cheerful. Suddenly, Jean sat up and said with excitement, "Girls, I have an idea. A Christmas idea." "What is it?" asked the other girls together. "Let's give Miss Allen a Christmas surprise. She hasn't received even one present, and I'm sure she feels lonely. Imagine how we would feel in her place." "That's true," said Olive thoughtfully. "Girls, I went to her room earlier with a message from Mrs. Pickrell, and I think she had been crying. Her room looked so empty and sad." "I think she is very poor. What should we do, Jean?" "Let's each give her a nice gift," said Jean. "We can leave the gifts outside her door. When she opens it, she'll see them. I'll give her some of the roses my brother sent, and I'll write her a nice Christmas letter." The other girls got excited about the idea. "That's wonderful," said Beth. "Jean, your idea is perfect. We've been so selfish, only thinking about our own gifts and fun. I feel bad about that. Let's make it really special," said Nellie. She forgot about her chocolates because she was so excited. "The shops are still open. Let's go and buy some gifts." 5 minutes later, the girls put on their coats and hats and ran out into the cold, starlit evening. Miss Allen sat alone in her cold, dark room. She could hear the girls laughing as they walked away. She sighed sadly. She was crying in the dark, thinking, "It's Christmas for everyone but me." After an hour, the girls came back with their gifts. "Now, let's plan everything," said Jean happily. "I didn't know what Miss Allen would like, so I just guessed. I bought her a lace handkerchief, a bottle of perfume, and a photo frame. I'll even put my photo in it for fun. That's all I could afford because my money is almost gone after buying Christmas gifts." "I bought her a glove box and a pin tray," said Belle. "Olive got her a calendar and a book of poems by Whittier. We're also giving her half of the big fruitcake our mother sent us. I bet she hasn't had anything so nice in years. Fruitcakes don't grow on Chestnut Terrace, and she never goes anywhere else to eat." Beth had bought a pretty cup and saucer and said she would give one of her watercolor paintings too. Nellie, as expected, bought chocolates, a big candy cane with colorful stripes, a bag of oranges, and a bright pink lampshade made of crepe paper. "I chose things that look nice but don't cost much," Nellie said. "Now, like Jean, I have no money left." "We have so many nice things now," said Jean with satisfaction. "Let's wrap them all beautifully. Girls, will you wrap the gifts in tissue paper and tie them with this baby ribbon? I'll write the Christmas letter while you do that." While the others talked and wrapped gifts, Jean wrote her letter. Jean could write wonderful letters, and everyone who received them said they were beautiful and joyful. She wrote her very best for Miss Allen's Christmas letter. Later in her life, Jean wrote many smart and funny things, but she never wrote anything more special than this letter. It was full of the true Christmas spirit, and all the girls said it was amazing. "Now you all must sign it," said Jean. "I'll put it in a big envelope. Nellie, can you write Miss Allen's name in fancy letters?" Nellie did just that. She also decorated the envelope with cute little angels holding hands and dancing around it. In one corner, she drew a small picture of number 16 Chestnut Terrace instead of a stamp. But Nellie didn't stop there. She took a big sheet of drawing paper and made a special pen and ink drawing. She drew a funny cat because she knew Miss Allen liked the number 16 cat. The cat was sitting in a rocking chair, wearing a jacket and cap, holding a cigar in one paw and a sign in the other paw that said, "Merry Christmas." Another cat, dressed in a coat and hat, held a banner that said, "Happy New Year," while tiny kittens played around the edges. The girls laughed so hard at Nellie's drawing that they cried. They said it was her best drawing ever. It took a long time to finish everything. By now, it was after 11 o'clock. Miss Allen had cried herself to sleep, and everyone else in the house was already in bed. Quietly, the girls crept down the hall. Jean held a small lamp, and they carried the gifts. Outside Miss Allen's door, they carefully arranged the presents on the floor. "It's done," whispered Jean happily as they tiptoed back to their rooms. "Now let's go to bed, or Mrs. Pickrell will scold us for staying up so late." Early the next morning, Miss Allen opened her door. But even earlier, the girls had woken up and were peeking out from Nellie's room. They didn't want to miss seeing her reaction. Miss Allen's face was full of surprise. First, she looked shocked, then confused, then happy. She smiled warmly as she saw the gifts. In front of her door was a pile of presents, and on top was Jean's letter. On a chair nearby was the bowl of roses and Nellie's funny drawing. Miss Allen looked down the hall, but the girls had quickly shut the door so she wouldn't see them. Half an hour later, when the girls came downstairs for breakfast, Miss Allen met them in the hallway. She was holding out her hands and smiling. She had been crying again, but this time they were happy tears. A bunch of Jean's roses was pinned to her dress. "Oh, girls," she said with a trembling voice, "I can never thank you enough. This was so kind and sweet of you. You don't know how much this means to me." Breakfast that morning was very cheerful. Miss Allen was no longer the skeleton at the feast. Everyone was smiling, and even Miss Allen laughed and talked like she was a young girl. "Oh, I was so surprised," she said. The roses were like a piece of summer, and Nellie's cats were so funny and wonderful. "Jean, your letter made me cry and laugh at the same time. I will read it every day for a year." After breakfast, the girls went to Christmas service at their church. The city looked beautiful in the bright morning sunlight. There had been frost during the night, and the streets and parks looked like something out of a fairy tale. "How beautiful the world is," said Jean. "This is the happiest Christmas morning I have ever had," said Nellie. "I never felt the real Christmas spirit so deeply in my heart before." "I think," said Beth, speaking slowly, "it's because we learned something important. It's true that it is better to give than to get." "I always knew it was true, but now I really feel it." "Let's thank Jean for her Christmas idea," said Nellie. "But, girls, let's not stop here. I think we should try to make this idea last all year. We can share some of our happiness with Miss Allen as long as we live here with her." "Yes, let's do that," said Jean warmly. "Oh, listen, girls, the church bells." And across the beautiful city, they heard the old Christmas message, peace on earth and goodwill to everyone.